Thank you. Thank you. I have to apologize in advance. I was not planning to be here today. One of my employees had a death in the family, and he needed to be at a funeral today. So I had a couple of days to plan for this, and he had not finished his PowerPoint presentation yet. So I took about 3 different PowerPoints, crammed them together into what I wanted to say. And so if you find any typos, and I've already found at least 2 just since yesterday when I finished it running out the door to my daughter's dentist appointment. So I apologize if you find any typos. But I actually wrote the grant proposal for this project that we're doing, so I know enough about it to slide in here and talk about it, even though he's actually been on the ground doing the work for the past year and a half. And I'm glad with Scott, right? Scott sort of segued right into what I have to say, because he was talking about sediment loading into the streams, because one of the things that we're trying to do is to prevent that from happening. So we're working with farmers. The Conservation District office, pretty much every county in the United States has a Conservation District office, and mine's in Gratiot County. We are housed inside a USDA service center, so we work a lot with everything that's going on there. We also are inside the NRCS office. So we work very closely with the NRCS, our district conservationist engineers. So the things that we're doing work together with them, but we're a completely separate entity. So having that opportunity to be a separate entity, we're able to do some of the things that NRCS is limited in, such as this new pilot program. We were approached by the Nature Conservancy about 1.5 years ago. They were working with this Michigan State University Institute of Water Research to do this sediment calculator. And they had done some studies about fish health and found that our area was set up to be able to actually make a difference in the Saginaw Bay watershed. So that's why they approached us. We had the resources in our office. I had the grant writing skills. So we put it together, and we were funded from the Great Lakes Commission through GLRI money for a $250,000 grant. About 80% of work goes right to the farmers, which is really nice, and it provides a local job. So that's really cool. Okay, so the way that NRCS does the incentivize for soil conservation, it's a competitive process. Is that large enough? My apologies if the font is too small. Farmers put in their bid to be able to do conservation efforts, and not all is competitive for the nation. So you need to have you need to have a really good high priority piece of property in order to get funded. It's also a flat rate based on the best management practices that they are planning to do. And the rental payments are based on soil production. It's not based on the sediment that's going into the streams. CRP is one of our NRCS programs, and it says in the presentation, I didn't put this slide together. It spends 300 million tons of soil erosion. But more can be prevented from going into the streams if we are able to do it, to apply the conservation priority areas based on where it's most likely to go into the streams, rather than just, any old farm field. So this is the new approach that we have been working with for this project. Anyone can enroll. It's not a competitive nationwide. It is it is limited within the Bad River watershed, because that's the area that we are doing with this study. And then the more soil that they save, the more money they get. And that's based on the calculation in the sediment calculator, which I'll show you in a few minutes. So there's a flexibility. If the farmer only wants to do a little bit of conservation and earn a little bit of money, that's okay. If they're able to go from conventional tillage to no-till drill with cover crops, they're going to earn a lot of money. So it just depends on what they want to do in terms of changing the way that they, is this my water? Mm-hmm. The way that they want to do their farming practices. And it's measurable. I don't want to set this, there we go. It's measurable because we're actually using a sediment calculator. I love it because it's utilizing a GIS, which is great, Geographic Information System. So because we're able to target specific properties where we know that there are problems using this calculator, we know that our conservation dollars are actually being put to good use in high priority areas. So our goals to reduce sediment, plus a reliable way to track the changes, which is what our sediment calculator does, plus the funding that we were able to receive from the Great Lakes Commission equals efficient conservation. So pretty simple. Here we go. Okay, so there were a couple other projects that were done in the Paw Paw River Watershed and Sandusky River Watershed, but this is the first of its kind in the Saginaw Bay Watershed. And as we were talking about the algae blooms, that is kind of a huge topic right now. We want to try to prevent the sediment from getting into the streams, which we are headwaters to the Saginaw Bay, so everything we do upstream is going to affect downstream. So if we can prevent it at that level, that's great for them, even though we can't see the Saginaw Bay from our window. Everything we're doing is affecting it. So we talked about the fish health community. The Bad River Watershed kind of almost lives up to its name. It really is having a lot of struggles. The watershed itself is like 95% agriculture, and a lot of the people there are still doing conventional tillage, which means that they're having a lot of runoff from their fields. And the Drain Commission, like Scott mentioned, you know, they don't think of it as a cost until the Drain Commissioner comes along and says, we're going to charge you X number of dollars to get the sediment out of your field. Whereas if in this approach, we can actually pay them to keep the sediment on their, or to keep the soil on their field and prevent it from eroding in to the ditch, causing sedimentation, which is going to cause the Drain Commissioner to have to come in and dredge it out. So we're hoping to improve fish community based on those. I'm going to send out this slideshow through Laura, so if you guys want to click on all the links. And I know this one like goes a few times. There we go. GLWMS, Great Lakes Watershed Management System. Is that what we call a sediment calculator? We call it the sediment calculator. So we're paying based on soil performance, you know, based on what the farmers are actually doing on the ground. So that's our project area. You can see where we are. Is this thing point? Okay. I'm not going to worry about it. Anyway, we are in the Saginaw Bay Watershed and the Bad River Watershed. If you can see Alma up there, it's kind of, St. Louis is the geographic center of the Lower Peninsula. So if you can picture where we are, about an hour north of here. Ithaca that's where my office is, and that's actually in the watershed. So basically everything in that watershed and downstream, there are actually 3 huck layers that are in that. So there are a few things that the actual sediment calculator is looking at: conservation crop rotation, filter strips, conservation cover, residue tillage, mulch till, residue management, cover crops, pasture and hay planting, wetland creation, restoration, riparian buffer, and grass waterways. So if you want to take a closer look at that on the slide, I think it's fascinating personally. I think a picture is worth 1,000 words, and those pictures are worth a lot. It really shows, especially this lower one, shows all the different conservation efforts in one picture, which I think is really cool. So this little area here is where we're talking about these tiny little but this is obviously Saginaw Bay, and everything everything drains down to the Saginaw Bay. So the Nature Conservancy actually did some studies. I'm going to show you some slides that compare what they did and how we're trying to make some changes. It was based on variables limiting fish health. So although that's not the only thing that we're working towards, it was just a scientific way for them to evaluate it. So this is why they chose the Bad River Watershed. If you see this red area over here, that's us. And so here's us there. So if we use the sediment calculator, we can make the changes that are recommended within the program. We can actually significantly change the fish health within that watershed from very highly impacted to moderately impacted, which is great. Now, some of the other areas, they make improvements through the program, but not drastically as much as the Bad River Watershed. So we feel like this watershed, we can really make a difference with this watershed. This is the actual sediment calculator, and said we're going to actually get into it. Is that correct? This is what you see when you open it up. So we're going to actually zoom in and see. Obviously, we are one of 4 target areas. So we're going to zoom into that area. That's the Chippewa River watershed. So, okay, let's, what I did was, in case we didn't have access to the internet, I actually created the slides to show you. But this will be in your handout when you get the slide presentation. You can print it out and actually see these step by step. So, but I'm just going to click through it so that we can actually show you. I'm assuming it's pulled up somewhere. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
So, this button right here is the.
Oh, okay. It's all right. We're pretty much done now. I'm actually going to log in. Is that okay? That's okay.
Screen is off.
Is that all right? You want to fix the screen while I'm logging in?
Let's see. Push it closer. It's so weird. Let's see. Can you get it? Go smaller. All right. We'll call it good.
Login failed. What'd I do? WICKERH4. Maybe there's a capital on that.
And one thing I'll mention while Julie's logging in is anybody can access the system online, so we can send out the URL, and it's available in the 4 GLRI priority watersheds,
There.
so you can go to any one of those spots and do the same kind of modeling on your own.
Okay.
And Laura, the login is just if you want to save your information, you can set up the login, but you don't have to have
Yes,
the username and password to use it.
correct.
This gets a little confusing, so just don't try to like write it down right now. I'm not going to go into too many of the concepts with regards to this. I'm just going to kind of show you what we do at our office for the Bad River. We're going to go into map layers, and we want to add in the sediment layer, and that's going to bring up a bunch of red stuff. The red stuff shows where the sediment problems are. So there you go. Now we're going to zoom in. Oh, first we're going to add base map. Well, I want to zoom in first because I want to show you guys something before I add in the base maps. I want to show you what I'm talking about with the red. Come on.
So it might be easier.
Oh, thank you. I love mice. Mice are great. All right, let's zoom in. Maybe. There we go. Maybe not. I'll just use the trackpad. All right. Sometimes you can see the red now. That is the sediment layer. And we're going to go down. There's where I live in Shepherd. We had a major fire there on Tuesday. A couple of historic buildings were destroyed. It was unfortunate. Okay, so there's, whoa, okay, now it really zoomed in. Wouldn't it be great if I zoomed right to where I was planning to go, but I don't think it did. Okay, there's 127. Now I don't know if I'm north or south of Ithaca at this point. There we go, there's Ithaca. I found a property that was really red, and that's why I'm zooming into this particular area. Go away, don't want you up. So we're gonna go a little bit farther in to the corner of Crapo and Fillmore. There it is. Okay, so right here, in the middle here, I'm going to zoom in even farther. And you can see this is a really red area, plus it has a stream running right through it. So this is a high priority. In fact, when I did the calculation on this, we got the highest return of dollar amount that we've ever gotten with any calculation we've done so far. And so Ben said, I need to go knock on this guy's door because he is going to really benefit from this program. So you can see That's our area. It's not real clear because it's kind of pixely, but you get the idea. It's very red. So one of the things that I'm going to do is go to base maps and turn on aerial with labels. But see, it kind of covers up the red a little bit more. I wanted you to see the red first. So we're actually going to be able to see, like this is their farm. And if you can see it, if I remove the sediment layer, you can actually see exactly where, see, there's their farm. I mean, this is such clear data that you can see where we're going. In fact, I'll leave the sediment layer off now. Now that we know where we're going, the sediment layer is kind of an opportunity to target market exactly where the worst places are, so that you can go knock on somebody's door and say, okay, look, let me show you on screen. In fact, that's kind of exactly what my master's thesis did. I was working with the Chippewa Watershed Conservancy Board of Directors, and we actually worked with the parcel layer data for, it was Isabella County. We kind of narrowed it down to that. And we actually were able to identify parcels within the Chippewa River watershed that were highest in need of preservation. So basically, I was kind of doing a study that ended up being, that's why I'm so excited about this program. It's very cool. Oh, we're going to leave sediment layer off, sorry. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to field scale analysis. We're going to go down to analysis, field scale analysis. And we're going to, well, you can name your project. That's always a good thing. And don't name it like project 1, project 2, sample 1. You actually want to do something that's going to, you're going to remember. So what I kind of did when I did this before was I named it Crapo and Fillmore, just because it's right there. Now we're going to use the HIT layer. HIP model, high
impact targeting.
High impact targeting. There's also the Althea, which I'm not going to go to concept too much, but basically if you're working with an urban area, Althea is better, and if you're working with a rural area, the HIP. Does that pretty much?
For the most part. So,
generalization?
HIT looks at sediment loading and erosion from agricultural areas, and Althea I think was originally designed for looking at like low impact development and changes from residential to commercial to industry, or from farmland to urban kind of thing.
We literally do not have an urban area in Gratiot County. We're second highest agriculture county in the entire state, and we are 86% ag. So there's not much else there besides a lot of farms, and they are beautiful. It's gorgeous farmland. If you ever have a chance to drive through Gratiot County, I kind of jokingly call it the land of a million turbines. We have a lot of wind turbines there. Okay, so we are going to, we selected the HIT layer. Now we're going to actually digitize an area. So we're going to hit activate. If you can you guys see where my mouse is? Okay, so we're hitting activate. We're actually going to draw a polygon. And we're going to actually try to really line the field. And the great thing about zooming in this far is you can do a really good job. Now, one of the things that we have to do with this particular program is we have to make a change from a previous practice to a new practice. In this case, we're actually going to analyze conventional tillage to no-till with cover crops, because that literally is the worst to the best. So this is a really high rate of return of dollar amount for the farmer, and it's a really high rate of return of conservation efforts. But if you see that green area, this along here, you can see the stream, the black line in the middle, and then all this green area is conservation that they've already done. They've got probably a filter strip along there. So we can't evaluate that particular area because it's already under a conservation practice, whether they're getting paid for it or whether they're just doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. I can actually see where the field is. Oh, that is not what I meant to do. I just want to keep drawing. So I'm actually drawing right along the edge of his field. And I'm going to go right up to the house, go around it. This is the great thing about this program is you can, I'm not paying the farmer for an area that's not his actual field, if that makes sense. Double click to end your polygon. Okay, so there we go. Now, we're going to, I think we can deactivate it at this point so that we are not clicking on it and creating boxes while we're in there. So now we're going to compare two scenarios. Okay, we've got our project name. Now for some reason, the hit layer, it turns itself off, so we're going to re-hit the hit layer. Okay, and whoop, did I click on include upland area? I don't think I did. We're supposed to. Include upland area. Okay. It'll show you really cool. You'll see why in a minute. Okay, so we're going to actually click on these to edit them. It says right there, click to edit. But you kind of have to know where you're going. That's why I wrote all this down. So at this point, we're going to select what they're doing now, which is conventional tillage. And then hit OK. So you've selected that. Now we're going to click to edit the change, which in this case, we're going to choose no-till with cover crops. Okay? So that, like I said, is kind of the maximum worst to best. And then I believe we're just ready to hit calculate. I kind of make sure everything's set the way I want it. Okay. Here's where the fun part is. Now, with this, and I want to check on my slides because I actually made some notes that I want to share with you with analyzing the results. And in my notes, I've actually got even little arrows that you can see exactly what I just clicked on. The two things that we're going to be looking at with the results are the erosion decrease and the sediment loading decrease in tons per year. And that's what we're going to actually, the Great Lakes Commission, when we do our reporting, they want a report on both. They want to know what we're doing. They want to know what they're paying for and what the results are. But we're actually paying the farmers based on the sediment loading decrease. And it's still calculating. So the way that we have organized it with our team and with Great Lakes Commission, with the Nature Conservancy, we kind of have a group that we decided all this and got approval. The pay per performance is based on a predetermined dollar amount. Based on kind of, we've sort of studied what the farmers will and will not do for a particular dollar amount. And so we've actually upped the dollar amount based on that first year. They were not interested in changing their practices based on a tiny little dollar amount. So we've upped the increase. So right now we're paying not by acre, which is what the NRCS does. It's based on the sediment loading. So we're taking $156.50 times the sediment load decrease, which is this number right here on the bottom, 13.46. The one I did before was much higher. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit because I want to show you this blue area over here is what they call the upland area. And that's basically like a mini watershed. That's all the land that's draining to that property. So if you think about everything, the way I describe it to the little kids that I teach in the schools, because I go in and teach school kids sometimes, everything we do on the land affects the water. So everything they're doing on that amount of land is affecting that piece of property, which is affecting this waterway. So we want to kind of focus that this is the area that can affect this property, but this is the actual property. So for our example, the one that I did before, and I'm not sure, maybe I didn't make as large of a polygon as I did before, but it came up to 19.87 tons. This came up to 13.46 tons, so I must not have done as large of a polygon as I did before. Most results will not be this high. This was a comparison of kind of worst case scenario to best case scenario, but also it was a high priority area based on that red that we showed. So we actually found a property that was like really high priority. So this dollar amount will not be as high, but for the one that I calculated yesterday, it was $3,109.65 for that farmer for a single year just to change his practice. Now I think most farmers probably would be willing to do that. One, because that's a lot of money, and two, because they're going to, actually prevent that sediment from going into their stream, which means they're going to save money when the drain commissioner comes along and says we're going to dredge that. And then if there's the, the touchy-feely aspect of it is save the environment, save the fish. It's great for us to, as conservationists and as our love for animals and fish to say, oh, let's save the environment. But you know what, with a farmer, with most of us really, it's the bottom line. What he was talking about with the $1.99 gallon of milk compared to if you do your farming practice exactly perfectly and from an environmental standpoint, you could pay $8 a gallon for a gallon of milk. So yes, it would be great to have that perfect environmental milk, but in most of us, when I'm trying to feed 3 children, that $1.99 gallon of milk looks good. And for a farmer, it's kind of the same thing. Yes, we all want fish health. Yes, we all want clean water. Yes, we want to stop the algal blooms. But a lot of times it comes down to that dollar amount. And with landowners who are going to completely change the way they're doing their farm, it does come down to the dollar amount a lot. So that's why we really want to provide them with a dollar amount that's going to, help them. So I can go back to my slideshow presentation, but really I've just got a couple of conclusions on there. We've gone through the slides. Like I said, I created a bunch of slides in case we couldn't get on the internet, but they're basically just showing what I just clicked and did. So I have on my slideshow also, which you can get, we can email it to you, a lot of links that you can go to see some of the data that was involved in collecting this and the actual sediment calculator, so you can get on there and play with it. But I found that if I don't know where to point, click, the sediment calculator is really pretty and exciting and completely useless if I don't know how to use it. So I would love to have some really great tutorials on how to use it and for different scenarios. But this is what we do in our office for our project, and I love this program and I'm so thankful. I was just telling one of my employees yesterday that the Institute of Water Research, it was like the first time I saw it at a conference, I was just in love with Institute for Water Research. I said, they're the people that if they were closer to Shepherd, Michigan and had job openings, I'd be jumping at the opportunity to work for them because they are cutting edge and amazing. So compliments to you. But this is fun. This is kind of what I got to do in my master's program and undergraduate and fell in love with geography. So